Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of this series, Market 0 to N. Today I'm going to be talking about insider information asymmetric access. And the key is you are going to be competing against lots of insider information, whether it's someone, for example, a CFO telling their cousin that's across the seas to buy calls, or just information spreading between random people, maybe someone overheard something. There's a lot of insider information being acted on, and most times it's not you acting, so you have a huge disadvantage. It's hard to be a news-driven trader, to be an event-driven trader. It's hard to trade off financials, and largely because people have that advantage on you. A big problem is when an earnings report is released, people have that report in advance. You may or may not believe that, but that's a fact. People have that report, and right when that report's released, they act on it. Now, some people might say, oh, they just have programmed certain AI or bots just to act on it based on certain parameters, and that is exactly the excuse they use if SEC was to try to charge them. The fact of the matter is they have that report in advance, they make their decisions, and then right when the report's released, they act on it, so it looks like they just have the quickest bots, the sharpest program. The fact of the matter is that's not true, because there's little pieces here and there, and they just don't. Now, I'm not to say that some people don't trade that way. I'm sure some do, but there are plenty of people who simply don't, and that's one of the reasons you have such a big disadvantage. So anyway, you may be able to gain an advantage through asymmetric access, and what that might mean is that information it may not be insider information, but it may hit you in a different way. And with that being said, maybe you're some sort of fashion influencer, and from you, your friends, and others, you might be hearing what are the latest trends, what people are getting sponsored by. Just you can see how things are changing, what brands are coming up, what are dying. That is just one example. And I want to share a couple more. And one really good one is Pinterest. This is one that I actually acted on quite a few years ago. It was one of the first times I was able to do such a thing. And essentially, iOS 14 was released. Everybody was downloading Pinterest to get their customized backgrounds. And a close friend of mine did this. And I was like, wow, this is not the type of guy to be downloading these kind of apps and doing silly things. So I was like, if this guy's doing it, this is going crazy. I put a good chunk of my money in pre-earnings, and I was up about 30% overnight. So this is just one thing where you can have like fair information, not inside at all, and just the way you observe the world. It's kind of an example of asymmetric access. Now, this is more of a retail example, and I guess to be honest, it's not the best one. A better one would be this. Hedge funds hiring meteorologists for weather market volatility. Now we know commodities are partially driven by changes in weather because the weather changes supply and demand. With that being said, these guys are not doing anything illegal, but they kind of have asymmetric access to the information in the sense that they're hiring these guys to give them information that other people just simply wouldn't have. Now, there's plenty of other ones. They might be collecting data from people in clinical trials to see if a drug is going to pass before it actually passes. For the most part, all within fair game. But these are the kind of things you got to understand and think about. And really, at the end of the day, every time you buy a share or sell a share, somebody was on the other end of your trade. So when you buy a share, you got to ask, well, who sold me this share? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, it might be just employees with stock-based compensation, and they're selling because they need to pay rent or whatever. Sometimes they're just overweight in something. Some people are just, executives trying to get the third yacht. Whatever it is, you got to ask yourself, why is this person selling to me? Because a lot of times, it's not just people trying to live their life. A lot of times, it's that they know something you don't, and you're about to get messed up. So anyway, that's all for this video. The key takeaway is really just think as who is on the other end of your trade and what do they know that you might not know.